Hi, I'm TJ Walker. Welcome to the program. It's Friday, October 8th, here with my colleague Mike Bako to look at the top communications-related stories in the news today. The big story, and I take no joy in this since it's besmirching my alma mater even more, but there's this young woman at Duke University, 22, just graduated. She created a PowerPoint going over the most intimate details of all of her male conquest over her time at Duke, but it was done as if a 30-year-old MBA on Wall Street.
PowerPoint, 44-slide PowerPoint.
It was amazing, and I have to say, I did look at a couple. It's funny, it's interesting, but it's also, you think, oh, what is she thinking? I mean, this woman can cure cancer, she can cure AIDS, she could create world peace. No one will ever talk about those things. This PowerPoint
is what she'll be known
is the
for.
only thing anyone will ever talk about the rest of her life. How did it start? She created a digital format, sent it to 3 friends. Well, thank you very much, friends. And it grew and grew and grew and grew. What lessons do you see from this?
Well, a lesson that I see from this is something that we touched on yesterday, where your footprint on the internet will be there forever. There was a story that we covered yesterday. 92% of 2-year-olds now have a digital footprint somewhere online, and that will follow them the rest of their life. Now, granted, a picture of you when you're an infant or a sonogram that a mother may put up won't come back to haunt you when you're going for a job interview 25 years later, but this is something that is there forever. Anytime someone Googles her name, anytime someone tries to do a cross-reference, it's always coming up, and in this day and age, that's something that you always have to be aware of.
Now, I've heard some people suggest that somehow sexism is involved. You know, if a man did this, it would be laughed off. I don't know. I remember in a pre-digital era, I was living in Tallahassee, Florida, and there was a man there who chronicled all of his conquest. It was on his computer. He didn't share it with anyone. But when the police found that became a huge uproar. People don't like to be a part of a computer listing in this sort of way. It really strikes people as cold, calculating, and an odd mixture of the human and the non-human.
You know, and it goes back to the pre-internet days where the men had their little black book, and that was something that, you know, the thicker the black book with more numbers in it, the better the man was at getting dates, and you know that held him in higher esteem with his friends, with people at the bar. And
I'm a married man. I don't remember things like that.
And now it's just, you know, it's just completely flipped. In the digital age, but as you mentioned, you know, with a female doing this, talking about her time on campus, where you know you don't really associate that with, you know, a female, and you know, adding into it a little bit more was members of the Duke lacrosse team who had their own
just
issues.
When they had started to rehabilitate their image.
You know, and again, a situation where even those members of that team wrongly accused, you know, by a woman of rape at a party, and all their names are, you know, forever digitally blackmarked, even though nothing, you know, came about of that in terms of, you know, from the legal system, but their names are, you know, associated with this. And even in some of the stories, some of the gentlemen that were in this PowerPoint came out and they're being drawn into it. So it's not only just the woman who, you know, produced this PowerPoint, it's all the other ancillary people that you sort of draw into your web.
So big rule, Ian, you don't need us to say it, but you can't say it too often these days. Don't put anything on your computer. Don't send an email to your best friend unless you would want that to be seen by the whole world. That's really the only safety. Other communication news items, what grabbed your attention today?
Other things that will be here forever. Charlie Crist, the governor of Florida, throwing out the ceremonial first pitch before the Tampa Bay Devil Rays' second game of their divisional series against the Rangers. Let's just say it did not go that well. A pitch that will probably live on in infamy. His ceremonial first pitch wound up almost in the opposing team's dugout, which you don't have to be a great baseball fan to know is not what you want. And it just leads, you know, even more people practice, you know, what they're going to say before they give a big speech. You wouldn't go out and give a big 1-hour keynote address without rehearsing and without practicing. And here these politicians go out in sports situations that they're not too comfortable in, and he probably didn't rehearse.
It's very risky going in front of an athletic audience for a politician because it's so easy to get booed. I think you ought to give a lot of thought to that in general if you're a politician, but something where your physical prowess is on display is always dangerous as a politician, because if you do a good pitch, no one's going to remember, no one's going to talk about it. There's only a downside. I mean, if you throw 100 miles an hour, no one's going to notice, no one's clocking it. But if you make a pitch like that, and we'll link to it on the site so you can see this video on YouTube, but it's hysterical. Believe me, I probably wouldn't do any better. And I don't know how to say this in a PC way, but when you look at it, he's kind of throwing it in a stereotypical way that some people would associate with what? Perhaps
with a non-male. You throw like a non-male. That's probably the way that it would come out. But you think back to not from his policies, but one of the enduring images of George Bush is going out before Game 3 of the World Series in 2001 after the 9/11 attacks in a bulletproof vest in front of 55,000 Yankee fans and throwing a perfect strike. And rousing cheer. Everyone was so caught up in that emotional moment. So there was a story of him being down in the bowels of Yankee Stadium, practicing, throwing off the pitcher's mound, wanting to make sure
he might not have prepared his State of the Union addresses that thoroughly, but he did prepare the speech. Any questions or comments? We are here live. We'll be coming back in a moment with a lot of great guests, but we are taking your questions, comments live right here. If you're watching this live at tjwalker.com, type in your comments, questions. Otherwise, we'll be back in just a moment. I'm TJ Walker.
And I'm Mike Bako. Thanks for joining.